Hello everybody and welcome to this video recording in week 1 of English as a Medium of Instruction for Academics. This is my colleague Rob, who I'm sure you're familiar with now, and I'm Mary. And if you hadn't understood, we're here on a weekly basis recording some ideas, asking some questions and responding to the activity that we've witnessed on the various steps in the EMI MOOC during the course of the past couple of days. We haven't even finished week 1 yet. We're recording this on Thursday. So you probably, I hope, be viewing this as part of your weekend relaxation.
Absolutely.
We have to say a special welcome to a group of teachers from Brazil, and I've immediately forgotten the name of the university. It's UFMG. So welcome to that quite large group of academics who are joining us, and also a group of academics from Serbia who I had the greatest of pleasure of working with for a couple of days in September. Is there anybody else you would like to welcome?
I would like to welcome everybody else.
Everybody else.
So yes, I'm more popular comparatively than you are. You have your 2 groups. Everybody else, you're with me. Okay.
I didn't realise it was a fight, actually.
I was going to say it's a
Sorry.
in terms of, or in comparison to previous runs of this MOOC, I think it's a really interesting group of people we have. A range of experience, a range of expertise, a range of roles, and a range of contexts. So this is going to be really interesting. I'm enthusiastic for what's going to follow. So thank you for joining.
I'm mega enthusiastic.
Wow.
Okay, so
the competition continues.
One thing that I'd like to do each week is ask you a question related to your EMI experience, and I'd like you to put in your responses on this step, sort of like immediately after the viewing this particular recording. If you could put your responses in this step, so we've got all the responses together. And that just reminds me that a number of people have mentioned wanting to talk more, discuss various issues. So please, can you put those responses in the appropriate points, on the appropriate step and after the comment that's been made. So we really can sustain these discussions, which are fantastic. Yeah. So my question really, it's quite a complex question, although the simple question is, where are you on your EMI journey, which is a word I don't like, but Rob loves, I think. I was thinking back as I was driving in to work today to make this recording, and I was thinking how I, as an individual, have progressed in my EMI thinking from way back. And I first thought about language issues, and then I thought, no, it's not language, it's also intercultural issues, because I'm imagining these groups of students from many different backgrounds and cultures coming together in an EMI context, in a lecture theatre, for example. So how do the different cultures and personalities and so on interact in that context? And then I sort of moved on to the more pedagogical issues, and I'm really interested in the pedagogical issues at the moment. But even more than that, I'm interested in emotional issues, the anxieties around teaching a language, teaching through a language that's not your first language, and what a challenge that must be for a lot of us. So I think the question is, what is it about EMI? Is EMI just very, very good teaching, which happens to be in another language? And the reason I've come to that question is that I was reading an article this morning over breakfast, and I think I dropped butter on it actually because it's gone a bit funny. But towards the end, the conclusions, and this was not an article about EMI, it was just about good lecturing in general, and the results were that the more students were engaged and active in the lecture, the more unmissable, and this is part of the title, what makes lectures unmissable, the more unmissable they found the lectures. That was one of the findings, was this interaction and engagement. And the other aspect was the passion and the enthusiasm of the teachers. Now, this is not from an EMI orientated journal or anything like that, but it seems to me that through my contact through EMI over the years, these are the standout features. It's helping students to engage at a deep, not a superficial level with the material, and for lecturers, helping lecturers to really find their EMI voice, which is a bit of a kind of cliche term, but it's the only thing I can think of at the moment, so that their passion and commitment comes out. And it's nothing to do with the language, apart from the fact that you need a certain level of language in order to be able to do this. And so that's what's really engaging me at the moment on my journey, is this pedagogical and emotional issue. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from Rob as well, if he has anything to say. Would you like to add anything to my question? Or?
I could link, I think something interesting me at the moment, linked to the conversations happening on the MOOC so far, is the element of the role of English and the role of language in education to advantage and disadvantage. Because we have people involved in our conversations who do not feel particularly advantaged by having to teach through English. There are other people who might have their position in the university because they are able to use English in this role. Yeah. There are people who are English language experts who are supporting staff, possibly assessing lecturers to see that they have the level of English to lecture through English. And there are people who are supporting students to study through English. So we see a lot of opportunities that arise through English, also in people's careers, the students' careers in future. But with that, there's also an interest in safeguarding, in making sure there is a protected space for other languages, that that higher education doesn't become too generic, internationalize and lose its local character. Yeah. We don't lose the knowledge of people who are not able to give the international university what the international university wants. So experts, for example, who don't speak English, how are they safeguarded? How are they protected? How are the students' first languages respected and their cultures and things like that? So that's another element that particularly interests me, and I'd be interested to hear from you in what's happening in your institution. Do you feel that safeguarding is happening, or do you feel that there's a sudden shift that is endangering people's careers? Okay, so that would be my interest.
And so, like, following on from that, another sort of sub-question is, what exactly is your motivation in taking this course? Is it that you actually feel obliged to take a course such as this in order to safeguard your position in the university, because you think, you have to do it, it's going to help you be safe in the future because you can teach through the medium of English? Is it some sort of external pressure on you, or is it really coming from within you, deep inside, that you really want to do it? Okay, you may acknowledge the fact that being able to teach through the medium of English, is a bonus, and it's likely to look good on your CV if you're applying for jobs elsewhere and so on. But is it a real self-motivation or an external motivation? Okay.
And something linked to this as well. So there's a lot for you to discuss for this week. So please, do just give. We'd like to hear or see you discussing with each other. And linked to that, we have lots of really good responses to the questions we've posed. But we'd like you to keep in mind that it's much better if you interact with other people as well. So some of you are doing this already, but if you reply, so instead of just using the comment function, you could reply to other people who've already commented, like other people's comments, get some networking going, see which people you'd like to be in discussions with. And that's a good way of enhancing the learning culture here, because we really want you to engage with these topics and to learn together. It's not just about watching the videos and we have some great knowledge to provide you. This is a chance for people to come together and share an understanding of what you do. So please do try to interact as much as you can. Okay, thank you.
Which is paralleling what we were talking about earlier, what I mentioned earlier, that, good pedagogy in a lecture, for example, is having the students engage as much as possible. So if you like, we're trying to have that happen here in a different medium. So it's the same sort of principle, if you like. We had some very good discussions around accuracy, and you participated in that discussion. I won't repeat what you said. And some very good discussions also around what if students are better, use English better than me, have better English than me. And I think it's quite a hard thing to acknowledge your worries and anxieties in a public or semi-public forum such as this. So once again, it comes back to acknowledging one another by liking and responding. Because if you type something in the MOOC, in one of the discussion areas, you don't really know if anybody's read that. So it's encouraging to see a like, then you think, oh yeah, somebody's read that. And it's even better if somebody can, just write a short comment, even just yes, I agree, acknowledges the effort and the contribution that the other person's found. So I find that very, very helpful indeed, just to like, or the minimal response to what you found in the discussion area. And it makes people feel good.
Yeah.
If they know that somebody's read them.
Yeah. And speaking of accuracy, I was just going to say, moving on to week 2, we'll start to look at some interesting approaches to. So we've looked at some of the concepts. Really, we've looked at the approach. What is EMI and what do we have to consider? We're not saying you need one particular approach, because you're in a diverse range of contexts in different disciplines and you're doing different roles. So there's not one approach, but we've covered most of the considerations in approaching EMI. And next we're going to consider the methods that go with that approach, and how do things like accuracy, the competencies that you want students to develop and you want to portray while you're teaching, how do those become actualized? How do those become performed when you are teaching and in the tasks, as you say, the interactive tasks that you might give students to do? So we're going to look at that in week 2 and take these ideas forward. But thank you very much for your contributions. This is where Mary mentions some names of people contributing. Where are your names?
Let me look at my list. Jacqueline, who's very visible. Sonia, Alejandro, Cristiano, Iman, and somebody called Rob. Don't know who he is, but somebody called Rob keeps participating. So yes, we're really, really happy with this first week. I mean, these first few days, in fact. It is only Thursday and it's the morning. We're really happy with the quality of the responses that we're reading. It's not superficial, it's deep thought that's going into a lot of the responses, and I do hope that other people will feel encouraged, emboldened by the kind of effort that other people are putting in to make comments of the same nature, because this is the value of the course. Really what we offer is just a starting point for you to take some ideas and to discuss what works for you, because there's no one way of operating in an EMI. context, there are so many different ways, and we learn about these different ways from exchanging with one another. The other way of exchanging with one another is via our Facebook group. We're well aware that this course only lasts for a certain number of weeks, whereas the Facebook book group is there all the time. Now, I know that Facebook isn't everybody's choice of social media. Not everybody likes it, not everybody uses it, etc. But it is one way for some of you to keep together and to keep the discussion going. So all you have to do is look for English as a medium of instruction for academics. It's the same name as the name of the MOOC. Look for it, join up, and it'll be great to keep the discussion going long after the MOOC is finished.
Indeed.
What else would you like to say, Rob?
I would not like to take up any more time from people who have kindly watched this video to the end.
Yes.
Thank you if you're still watching.
If you're still watching, thank you very much indeed. We will see you again next week, and remember that week 3 is going to be a live session. We'll tell you more about that next week, but there will be a better opportunity for greater interactivity between us all when we have this live session. So we're looking forward to that tremendously.
Yes. And on that step in week 3, if you have any questions, please do post your questions there, because we can answer them, and we can also get a chance for you to begin to give your views on the questions and make it interactive as much as possible on that day.
Absolutely. And do it now, because you've got access to the whole course. It's just that we obviously take it week by week from our point of view. You know, if you think of something, just race ahead to week 3, find the live video step, and then we'll and put your question in there so you don't forget it.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. And we'll see you next week.
See you in week 2.
In week 2.
Bye-bye.